the first thought that comes to mind is how the heck am I going to play the piano or the violin if I can't move my fingers?
Are you walking through a storm that feels like it will never end? Do you wonder if life's storms have stolen the beauty from your life for good? You're in the right place. My name is Heather, and like you, I've been through a storm or two and wondered if life would ever be beautiful again. Here we share warriors' words, stories of discovering beauty after battles, and the worth in your wounds. Pick up your sword or boxing gloves and join the battle. Your words are powerful, my friends. Make them warrior words. Welcome, warriors. A classically trained pianist from the age of 6, Mary Flint discovered her love of writing from her lifelong love of stories. Inspired by the books and success of teenage author Christopher Paolini, she began writing her first book, Red Star: The Hunter Trials, at the age of 15 and published it 2 years later. Mary hopes that readers will enjoy exploring the characters and their words as much as she does. She also enjoys interacting with Red Star fans at conventions, book signings, and online. Mary currently writes from her home in South Texas, USA. Now, before we hear from Mary, did you know I created some warrior words, t-shirts and hats and, other merchy type stuff? You can find all of those and more in my Fourth Wall shop. Now, it's a complicated URL, so I will put that in the show notes for you to just click on, and so you can wear your warrior wings or carry your warrior sword wherever you go. And if you pick something up, post it on Instagram and tag me at @mywarriorwords. Now, grab a tissue and join Mary and me as we talk about pivoting your plans, even when facing the unknown. Let's rock. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Warrior Words podcast. We are blessed to have Mary Flint with us today. Welcome to the podcast, Mary. How are you today?
I'm good, Heather. Thank you so much for having me on today.
I have been looking forward to this conversation for a while because before we hit record, we were talking about how we've known of each other for about 3 years now, and we just haven't met like this yet. And so I've really been looking forward to our conversation. So,
It's gonna be fun.
Yes, very excited about it as I kick my table. So, okay. Well, as you heard in the introduction, I read Mary's bio about how she was a classically trained pianist at age 6. So can you share with us how you even got started so young, and then what happened from there?
So my older sister, she's older than me for about 2 years. She started taking piano around 4 or 5. Just little lessons with my mom, my aunt. And I was at the age where I idolized everything she did because that's the age I was. Well, she's doing piano. I want to do piano. So I would do little tiny lessons here and there. And then she got like a grown-up teacher. And I was like, well, I would like the grown-up teacher too. So I convinced my mom that I would practice and I would do all the things. And she was like, okay, can take from the same teacher. And my copying phase only lasted like a year or so past that. But it was fun being able to learn songs, play them. And it was just, I got school credit for it. I was homeschooled. And the harder the pieces got that I learned, the more kind of satisfying it was, getting longer and longer pieces by, the big composers, by Beethoven, whoever. It's like, I can play this. This is great. And I loved finding the stories in the music to tell through the music. Um, I did have a little hitch when I was a teenager. I was like, do I want to keep playing the piano? I've been doing this my entire life. What am I doing with my life? Um, and we moved shortly after that phase started, and it was like, okay, here's your chance. Do you want a new piano teacher or do you want to do something else? It's like, well, I'll try it again. I'll try it. And me and my teacher hit it off. And in a week or two, I was like, well, I'm going to do this for my job. I love this. I want to do this forever.
Yeah. Wow. It's it's interesting how and I think a lot of artists and creatives and authors, which we'll get to, I think we all go through a phase where we question, is this really what we want to do? Am I good enough at this? Can I make it my job? And sometimes we need that break, or maybe like you had the switch in teachers
Mhm.
to help you to make that decision. And so from there, how like did you perform? Did you how did it go from there?
I performed a lot. I was taking dual credit college classes at that point. And so there were performance classes where we would perform um, for like the college students just to get practice performing. I did recitals with the rest of my teacher's studio at the end of each semester. Um, I had duet partners. I played duets with other students. I played duets with my sister, my brother. Um, I actually picked up the violin in high school as well because it's just it was so fun. um,
Why
and I
not?
liked classical violin, but uh, I learned how to play Irish fiddle. Um, and it worked out because when I got into real college, and decided, okay, this is the degree I want. I want a music degree. If you're already learning piano, there's an empty slot of credits where people who play other instruments have to learn how to play the piano. And so they're like, well, that's a little redundant. So you can either like take another core class, like another English, a speech, or you can like do another music credit. You can learn another instrument, whatever you like. It's like, well, actually, I started playing violin in high school. Can I do that? And they're like, yep, that fills the credit requirements. Like,
Mhm.
awesome. Um, and I loved music school so much. We were learning the theory and we were learning how to sight read music without our instruments. We did classes about the history of music and how it came from, the very first transcription of a musical piece in a piece of stone from, ancient Greece to what we have today. Um, and let's say music was how I expressed myself the best, and right about my first year of college was, I everything clicked. I knew how to perform. I knew how to prepare. I competed in competitions all through high school, did a couple in college. Um, and I knew my instrument. I knew my brain and my instrument. And even though there was, other things I was looking at and exploring at the time, um, it was just, I knew it so well. And music was always so much better at describing things for me than words were. It was this art of how to take the indescribable and give people a minute to come in. And as they listen to you play, you're providing them an escape. You're providing them a moment to feel, to just experience something that, it doesn't matter if the story I have in my head for the music I'm playing was the same as, the 7, 10, 100 people in the audience, I was a magician. I could make them all feel something, and that was magical to me.
I get chills when you're describing that because you started out just a few minutes ago saying that it was storytelling for you. And
Yeah.
then now to hear you describe how you can go from the story that you have in your head, which may or may not even be what the composer had in his head, um, and yet you can still play that piece of music and cause that emotion in somebody, and even the person sitting next to them may have a different emotion or a different story in their head. And yeah, it's magical. I like that magician word.
Yes.
So were you able to get your music degree?
I did. I got my associate's degree in music education. I was more performance focused. So I didn't have like a teaching certificate to teach in like a public school. But I was trained in how to teach, private students one-on-one, um, and kind of say I'm more private student based, but I did learn how to teach music. So that's kind of the official degree title. But my emphasis was, training to be a performer to, and it's hard to get a career that's just performing,
Mhm.
because so many people want to do that.
Right.
Um, but if you teach at a university, at a college, you get to perform.
Mhm.
Um, they might need a pianist for the orchestra program to, if they want to do a concerto, they're going to need a pianist. Um, and there's concerto competitions. It's an education degree, but I was more focused on training to perform.
And so did you pursue the teaching in college, or did you pursue um, uh, teaching privately? Where did you?
Um, I pursued teaching privately. Um, I've have my little tiny studio here. I teach piano and violin. Um, I mostly teach, like kids, middle schoolers, high schoolers, and it's just so much fun. Especially, to see like the kids when like it finally starts clicking and they're like,
Yes.
I played Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I'm like, yeah, you did. You're into the real songs now. It's so exciting. And just to see,
Yeah.
that little bit of joy that I had as a kid, I'm like, okay, now I'm the teacher in Hogwarts. Like I'm teaching them the wands and all this fun stuff.
Yeah. So now,
Um,
so you got to go from being the student and excelling to bringing that magic to others.
yeah,
That's such a that's such a beautiful thing to be able to pass on that knowledge and that gift to someone else. So,
it's my favorite part.
but you and I know, and the audience doesn't yet, but you and I know that something else happened in your life, and the performance aspect is not your main focus anymore. So let's move into the more difficult part of the story now, and share kind of what happened and where you are now.
Yeah. So the year's 2020, the year from heck.
Everybody's everybody's favorite year.
You know it's going to be loaded when you start with 2020. Um, but March 2020 was my second to last semester of college, for my associate's degree. Um, it was my last semester to do like the performance stuff. And then I was going to take one more semester to just finish up my math and my last government class. Um,
All those fun
it
classes that you're
was,
required to take.
yeah, it's the government was interesting. Math burn it, please. But that's that's neither here nor there. Um, but it's already kind of interesting because that was the spring break that never ended. Um, so we kind of shifted from this process that I knew very well to figuring out how to do, you know, tests on Zoom when Zoom thinks music is a background noise and is filtering it out. And, there's trying to do a lesson and stuff is behind and skipping. But I made it. It was great because my last, my performance finals, I could record them and just send them on. It's like, okay, I don't have people watching me. This is great. But it was like, okay, I got through this last semester. Um, I'll do my remaining 4 classes, once the summer ends. Um, and you know, I can take some lessons, maybe once everything all of this boils over, I can, take some lessons again while I think about, do I want to do a bachelor's degree? Do I want to just start teaching for a while? Um, Kind of unrelated, but it also started the process for a couple other things. But it was like, okay, we're all trapped, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
We'll just try a bunch of stuff. Well, I basically have time to do nothing else but try new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, September comes. I'm in my last 2 classes. COVID's really heating up. And I finished my homework for the day. It's nighttime. I needed to take my dog out one more time. For it was time for bed. We live out in the country. So we have like a little, like 5 acre piece of land, got some chickens. It can be a little buggy and it's hot. So I'm getting my dog ready to go outside and just I'm hit with this feeling of something is very wrong in my body. And, I just finished math homework. I was very overwhelmed. I was like, you know what? It's just math. We'll go outside. We'll take the deep breath. Everything's going to be fine. We'll ask dad for help tomorrow. He's an engineer. He'll know how to make sense of all this. I had my dog outside for about 2 minutes and my face goes numb around my mouth. And in seconds, that numbness has started in my hands, the lower part of my hands and the lower part of my arms. And I never felt anything like that before. So I hurry up my dog and scoop him up, run inside. Most of my family is asleep at this point. I'm banging on my parents' door. I'm like, something is very wrong with me. Um, and so I calm down a little bit. They come out, say, what's going on? I'm telling them like, and as I'm talking to them, this feeling is spreading up my face and up my arms. And it's like tingly and it's kind of painful, but it's numb. And it's just the strangest feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. And my face feels weird when I try to move it. And my mom, both my parents have been EMTs, so they're like, okay, the most likely explanation is bug bite. Bug bite you're allergic to. So I took some Benadryl, feeling subsides. I'm like, okay, it's a weird bug bite. Fantastic. Go to sleep. Wake up, feeling better. I'm like, we'll take it easy on the math today. I'm really careful when I go outside, like wearing long sleeves, take the dog out. Everything's going great. Till that night when just like a switch pops, it just boom, back. The tingling, the numbness, same spots, but then it goes further. It goes down my neck and it goes up my arms. And I'm like, okay, this is really weird. Must be the bug bite again. I take another Benadryl. This time it does nothing. And I have checked every inch of my skin and I can't find any bug bite other than a mosquito bite, which I've been bitten by mosquitoes in Texas for almost 10 years at that point. I think I'd know if I was allergic to them by now. So I was like, okay, well, it's COVID. We really don't want to have to go in the doctor's office if we don't have to. So I'm waiting, but over the next like 2 days, that numbness has gone from just like my hands and arms and face to my feet, and it has gone all the way up my legs and all the way up my arms to my shoulders. Um, and it's not going away anymore. It's constant. So I finally go into urgent care. Um, and the doctor there, he's scratching his head. He goes, okay, off the top of my head, the only thing I can think of that this could be, if it's not, you're allergic to a bug bite, is stuff that's really rare and really hard to diagnose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some antivirals just to say we did, and then I'm going to refer you to a neurologist because this is outside my scope. I'm like, okay. I know a good neurologist from friends and family. Send a referral there. Um, and I go home, and not just hours later, my entire body is now numb and tingly. Like I can take a mechanical pencil and poke my skin, and not feel it. Like push really hard and not feel that I'm basically stabbing myself with a pencil. And so we call the urgent care back, and they're like, at this point, go to the ER. Like this is beyond our realm.
Right.
Uh, Go to the ER, sit there for hours and hours and hours, blood test, EKG, the standard thing. And I get when you're anxious, it can make some like numbness and tingling around your face when you're hyperventilating. So just really examine your life, try and cut back on the stress and breathe. And like,
Really
first of all,
helpful. Yeah.
yeah, first of all, but this is a global pandemic. I think we're all a little stressed.
Just a
Second of
little
all,
bit.
yeah. Second of all, I've been very stressed in my life. I know this is not how my body reacts to stress. Um, and so I'm like, okay, go home. And I'd give it an honest go. I look through, I'm like, okay, math is hard, but dad's helping me. Government's fine. Okay, pandemic, scary, but we're all fine so far. Going through everything. Um, and then like the next day, my mouth and my throat get numb. And
That's
my mom's
scary.
like, back to the ER we go, because like even the gums of my teeth was numb. Like if I was flossing, like it felt so weird. Um,
And that's
but
kind of
inside my
essential
mouth,
for breathing and eating and yeah, essential
yes,
functions. Yes.
yes. So I go in again, pass out when they do a blood draw, which is the first time I've ever passed out. And that just made everything worse. But they did an MRI. They did give me some anti-anxiety pills, which, surprise, surprise, did nothing. Um, but I had a really kind ER doctor that time. She gave me a preliminary, kind of neuro exam to judge, like, how numb are you? Is it the same on both sides? Is it different? Um, and it had worsened on my left side. Um, Almost like, if you have like those toys where like it's filled with beads and you turn it and all the
Oh,
beads go
yeah.
to one side, like it kind of like everything was still there, but it shifted to my left side. And she was like, okay, we don't have a neuro in this hospital that like does this kind of stuff because I live out in the middle of nowhere. It's fantastic. She's like, but definitely see a neurologist. I'm like, okay, we knew that, but thank you because that's important.
But at least she
And the
actually
waiting,
listened. She actually listened
yes,
and, instead of just telling you to go home and de-stress.
yes. It was like, there's
Yeah.
actually something wrong. Definitely, definitely keep investigating this, especially if the numbness in the mouth and the throat persists. Um, and the neurologist office, called back finally and they're like, okay, our first appointment is like, this is September. They're like, it's in January. And my parents are desperate at this point. They're like, is there any way she can get in faster? And this neurologist was in San Antonio. And they said, well, he has rights at this emergency room. So go to this hospital, go to the emergency room, tell them that you called us, sent you in, and he'll come and see her. Um, so height of COVID, we're in the ER for hours, have the lovely COVID test. Um, I'm admitted by just the ER doctors there without the neurologist even seeing me. They're like, oh yeah, this is weird. So they admit me, they do a battery of tests, seeing if my heart has any holes, Lyme's disease, all these wonderful things. I'm in the hospital for about 5 days. Um, and the neurologist, he's like, okay, we think you might have some weird presentation of Guillain-Barré syndrome. I'm like, never heard of it. Fantastic. Explains to me what it is, how it's, basically people are paralyzed. And he's like, but you're not paralyzed, but like the progression is very similar. It starts at the feet, it moves its way up, it's very rapid. And it could just be a really weird case. I'm like, okay, what now? So, well, this is the standard treatment for it. So I got like a 3-day infusion of IVIG, which gave me the worst headache of my entire life, but the numbness stopped progressing. I was like, fantastic.
Yeah.
We figured it out. I get to go home. Everything's better. My dog died, but
Oh no.
he was old and sweet. And I was like, you know what?
Oh
That's
no.
okay. Like, my it's okay. Everything's fine. Grieve the dog, but I'm like, okay, I'm ready to kind of come out the other side of this. Um, but even before the next part happens, I was getting really depressed, probably because my whole life, it's scary to go into the hospital and
Yes.
have, be told you have this weird presentation of this disease that can kill people.
Yeah.
Um, but you survived and you're lucky. And I'm like, okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm working with the neurologist, and so the numbness is there. It's improved a little bit, but the improvement kind of stalls. And they're like, this is normal. We'll see if we can do like another infusion at home, see if that does anything. And just a couple days after I had that appointment, it's New Year's Eve, sitting there in my room with our, this is December at this point. I had a new puppy. She was great. I loved her so much. Um, and I'm sitting there and boom, all the numbness, all the tingling is not only back, but it is worse.
Um,
Um, in particular, my left leg, because at this point it just been like kind of topical skin numb. But this time it felt like I couldn't feel my muscles. Um, and just in like just a little part of my leg, I said, something's really wrong this time. Um, so we pack up the car, we drive to our San Antonio, go back to the same ER. It's a 2-hour drive from where I live, about 2 or 3 hour drive. And from that time, getting in the car to getting to the hospital parking lot, I couldn't walk on my own. Um, my legs were too weak to hold me up. Um, the numbness in my face was so bad, my speech was slurring. And this numbness is, it's starting in my arms now. My arms feel weird. They get me in the ER. My mom can't come in because it's COVID. So I am by myself. Yeah. And in San Antonio, there was this huge surge of COVID at that time. So they managed to get me a closed-in room because Guillain-Barré is autoimmune. And so they did not want me getting sick. Um, and I had angels of nurses that did everything they could to make sure that I didn't get sick, um, and check on me because they knew I was scared and I didn't have anybody in that hospital with me, even though they were literally, working to death. Um, they finally put me in their temporary ICU just to get me out of the COVID patients. Um, and they said, neurologist is going to see you tomorrow. Just try and sleep. So I'm laying in this dark hospital room on New Year's Eve. It's New Year's at this point, um, all by myself. Um, and I'm sitting there moving the fingers of my left hand over and over and over again and feeling them getting slower and slower and slower. And the first thought that comes to mind is how the heck am I going to play the piano or the violin if I can't move my fingers? Um, and but okay, this is scary, but the treatment worked the last time and it's going to work this time. Um, it's several hours even after the morning before the neurologist can come to see me, and it's my right hand now, it's my right leg now. Um, I you know I can't feel my muscles moving. My fingers are slow and they're very stiff. Um, and they do the test where you lift your leg up off the bed and they push on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they don't push very hard.
No, they don't.
And I'm like struggling to keep my legs up and they're just pushing them down. Um, and so, yeah, I get to stay in the hospital again and get more medication and do a spinal tap and CT scans, which all come up clean. There's nothing in them.
Nothing. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, maybe not Guillain-Barré, maybe it's CIDP, which is like the chronic version of Guillain-Barré. I'm like, oh, this is great. Chronic is not a word I like.
No.
Especially when I can't move my hands. And what do you mean this thing that I wanted to be my career is, what do you mean physical therapy? What do you mean occupational therapy? Um, but I finally get to go home and start my physical therapy in home. I have to use a walker to walk around my own house. Um, I have to have help with my laundry because I can't keep my arms up long enough to fold laundry. Um, I can't get my own plate of food to carry it to the table. People have to carry it for me. Um, and this started this lovely cycle throughout all of 2021 of, at the beginning, I was very driven. I was like, okay, physical therapy, I'm going to work really hard. I've already taken an incomplete on one of my classes. I'm finishing this other class and I'm getting this function back, getting back on track. And I would work so hard. I'd do all my exercises and I'd see improvement. And then I'd get a really bad flare up and I'd have to go to the hospital again. And I'd have to get the medicine again and start back almost from square one because all the weakness is back. Everything's back. And they're trying to get me infusions at home instead of going to the hospital so I can get it regularly. And the insurance is fighting us and we're fighting back.
They're good at that.
Yes, it's so great. And, we change insurance companies. I change doctors. I have doctors I'd seen for a long time suddenly turn around and be like, well, you know what? All your tests are fine. There's nothing on paper that says that you are having trouble walking. You must be faking it. Your parents must be making you sick. I'm like, hold on a
Wow.
minute.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And, I'm super depressed at this point because I can't do anything. Um, I will always remember the day I felt brave enough to sit at the piano and try and play. And I knew that, the pieces I'd been working on my last semester of college weren't going to be possible for me to play. But, maybe I could just play a scale, play the 4-octave scale up and down, maybe do a hand and exercise. And, I could practice for 2 to 3 hours at a time. I was playing pieces that were 10, 15 minutes long, learning a program that's 30 minutes long. Um, do all the scales and all the keys and all the minors back to back, front to front, mixed up. And I sit down, I put my fingers on the keys. I can't feel the keys. Um, and I play a C major scale up and down, which is the easiest scale to play. And I get to the top of the 4 octaves, and I can already feel my hands shaking from fatigue. And I get to the end of the scale, and I did not touch the piano again for a very long time. Um, I'm really, really grateful that my violin teacher taught me how to play the fiddle because um, it's on one position. It's very simple. And once I'd done enough occupational therapy, I could play some fiddle tunes, some simple ones, but at least I could make music again. Um, but you know, concerto competitions, playing with a symphony, uh, bachelor's degree, probably not going to happen anymore. Um, and if I thought I was depressed before, um,
Yeah.
I I did not recognize myself. Um, and then my heart started to do weird things, and I'm getting nerve pain. So not only am I numb, but I'm also in pain. Um,
Combination.
and my
Yes.
heart's being really fast, and I'm getting dizzy when I stand up. And at one point, I had a good primary care doctor, and he was determined to help, manage my symptoms while I got into another specialist. And I just wanted to be done, you know. Um, my career is behind me. I'm not getting any better. I've been working so hard in all of my physical therapy just to lose everything again. As what am I supposed to do?
Mhm.
Um, I have a port installed because my veins don't handle IVs. They blow every time. I finally, after like an entire year of fighting my insurance company, doing all the extra tests, doing the appeals, they
Mhm.
finally approved my treatment. I'm like, okay, this is it. We've done it. We get everything set up. And I talked to my neurologist at that time, about getting like, a PICC line or something, because that's what they have to do in the hospital every time. Um, and they recommended just getting a port installed because it's much safer infection wise. Um, and it's much easier to access and all this good thing. Could not get it put in before my first infusion was going to happen. And, I had a really wonderful nurse that, they sent extra IV needles and all this stuff to make sure that I would get the medication no matter what my veins did. I get my first treatment and it's great and it's helping. And, we've set up, like, okay, this is going to be monthly. We've booked out like the next 3 months. You're going to get your port in. It's going to be great. I get my port put in, recover from that surgery, getting ready for my next infusion. And the insurance pulls the authorization.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Jeez. It's one hit after another. I loved hearing Mary's definition of what music is to her. Storytelling in a way that allows others to feel emotion. She described it as magical and herself as a magician. And that's such a beautiful description. Music gave her a purpose. It made her feel alive. But as you heard, a medical crisis took that away from her. Her dream of making music her career was suddenly gone. This medical crisis would take twists and turns, leaving her with more questions than answers. And one of those questions was, what was she going to do now? So please tune in next week for part 2 of Mary's story to learn how this changed her life, and including the depths to which it took her, how she was able to process and eventually emerge from this devastating chapter of her life to a brand new story. Have you ever lost a dream? How did you handle it? Something to think about this week. Until we meet again, armor up, fight the good fight, seek beauty, and to make your words warrior words. God bless.